for anybody that is going to be watching this, since we're recording, my name is Ian Johnson. I'm a PT over at Lake Sam PT. I've got my student with me, Sarah Dean, and she's right here. Hello.
Hi.
And we're going to go ahead and lead you guys through what it might look like to set your desk up at home. So I'm just going to go ahead and let her take over from here, and you've got the reins. Have fun.
Okay, I'll start by screen sharing here. This one. All right, can everyone see that okay?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll get started here. So I included this picture, and it might be a little hard to see on the screen, but we have a lot of people who come into PT complaining of neck pain, and they're not always sure why. And I like this little illustration here because it shows even just at rest, with the weight of our head and gravity, there's 10 to 12 pounds of force going through your cervical spine. And that changes with different positions. So if you can see, just at 15 degrees of flexion, bending your head forward, that goes up to 27 pounds. At 30 degrees, it's 40 pounds. 45 degrees is 49 pounds. And at 60 degrees, it goes all the way up to 60 pounds. So experts in the field are calling this text neck or tech neck because they believe it's increased so much from everyone looking down at their smartphones for texting or reading. But Ian and I also think it should be expanded to include working on laptops and computer monitors as well if they're not at the proper height. And then if you think about how long we're asking our bodies to hold that posture, they found that the average person spends about 2 to 4 hours a day on their phone. And if you add that on top of an 8-hour workday, you're spending half a day in positions that aren't optimal. So there's no surprise that we're having a lot of stresses to the muscles and tendons around the neck, which can lead to pain. So we're going to talk today about how to prevent that. And one key thing to remember is if you have the best setup, there's no one setup that's going to be comfortable all day long. Our bodies are really made to move, and it's important to change positions through the workday as much as you can. So we're going to talk about a few different working positions: sitting, standing, and even lying down. But another key thing to remember is how important it is to take breaks. We tell a lot of people to set reminders on their phone so that you get up every hour, walk around, do a few stretches or exercises, and change position a little bit. The first one we'll start with here is with your sitting position. In each position, we'll talk about neutral spine, and that's to reduce the forces going through your spine. And what that looks like is if you envision a straight line going from your ear, through your shoulder, through your hips, through your knees, and through your ankles when you're standing at least. So in every position, we really want to optimize that. So to start with, in sitting, we find first it's easiest to adjust the chair so that you can get your hands at the proper height to reach your keyboard. But you want your head and neck to be facing forward. We'll talk a little bit later about monitors and how to adjust your equipment. But you want to avoid that tech neck position of looking down or even up. You want shoulders to be relaxed. A lot of times with stress, we find our shoulders creeping up towards our ears. So reminding yourself to reset and check in with yourself. You want your back to be supported as well. In this picture, it shows a good back support all the way from hips up to the shoulders. We also even recommend chairs, if you have them, high back chairs that allow your rest as well. Some other ideas for low back support, if your chair isn't very comfortable, is you can roll up a towel and put that in the small of your back to help give you better support there. You want your elbows to be at your sides. A lot of times we'll see people with their mouse far out. And we'll talk a little bit about that in the next slide. But keeping your elbows in at your side, your forearms and wrists should be nice and supported. You can either use the arm of a chair for support, but Ian and I tend to take armrests off completely because that allows you to scoot closer to the desk to get your wrist supported. And if you need an additional wrist support, you can fold up a towel and put that under your wrist too. And then feet should rest comfortably on the floor. Sometimes in order to get the right height for your elbows and wrists, your feet might not be touching the floor, so you can bring in some boxes or books just to keep your feet rest.
No, I think those are all really good points. She did mention briefly about the headrest on the chair, and that's one of my favorite recommendations of all, is to make sure you've got some kind of a headrest. That means you're usually buying like an executive chair that may have the arms on it, in which case you're going to want to either take those off completely or really do a deep dive search to try to find that chair without the arms. Scoot in really close under the desk and then elevate yourself up. She mentioned the arms staying at your sides, which is great. There usually is a slight downslope of the forearm, which you can't see in that picture, that would go to that tabletop. And that would be probably about as good as you're going to get. However, you can add that little footrest that she was speaking of. And if you have that footrest there, you can usually get your chair to tilt back by about 10 or 15 degrees. So then you've got the headrest plus the semi-reclined position, which she's going to get to later in the slides. But I think, yeah, those are all great points. Let's keep going.
All right, so next we'll talk about some of the equipment. For monitors, people are always surprised, but the top of your monitor should be kind of at your forehead or eye level, and that's to allow you to keep your head straight and just move your eyes in order to read the screen instead of looking down at your screen. And that's typically should be about 18 to 24 inches away from you in order to give you that visibility as well. If you wear bifocals, you'll have to adjust that a bit to allow your lens to be in the right place. As far as the keyboard goes, we both think external keyboards are great if possible. With a laptop, it's really hard to have your arm in the right position and not be looking down. That's good if you can get access to that. Something I didn't mention with monitors was if you have dual monitors, trying to space them so you can look at both without having to turn your head too much. And that can be pretty difficult to get the setup, but just trying to optimize that amount of time you're changing positions, make it so it's pretty even. You're not constantly turned to one side, or if you can just turn your body a little bit as well too, just so you're not constantly twisting your neck. We talked a little bit about the wrist support already, and the mouse I mentioned, that should be pretty close to your side as well. The keyboard and mouse, you should be able to reach both by keeping your arms kind of tucked in at your side. Things like the phone, that can be a little bit farther away, just so you can reach for it once. If you are going to be on the phone for a long time, we really recommend using headphones. That way you're not constantly holding something up to your ear or doing the awkward cradle with your ear and shoulder. Anything else for equipment?
Just one other thing, that is, most standard keyboards have that big number section on the side of it that nobody uses, or very few people use, I should say. So you can buy that mini keyboard. And if you get that mini keyboard, then the spot where the numbers used to be is where your mouse slides into. And then you've got that ability to keep the elbows at your sides and your hands actually in front of you. Most of us are out on the mouse anyhow, and it's really easy to drive out to the side and just end up reaching away further and further over time as we start to slump and everything as we do, right? So that might be one more thing that could help us out a little bit.
Do either of you have any questions about the sitting posture before I move on to standing?
Do you recommend like ergo mice or ergo keyboards or anything like that, or does that not super matter?
I've found that if people are using ergonomic style keyboards and mice, that they typically have more problems than if they have a standard one. So I try to go with just the old school flat keyboard. It tends to be the most comfortable. You can put pieces around it that make it more ergonomic, like we talked about, getting those flat wrist positions. Putting a little gel bump where your wrists would sit would be helpful. I've got a little beanbag that I've used before that's really nice, and the same thing on the mouse. But the old school mice and keyboards were set up pretty darn good. The little contours are fine. If you start getting into big splits and vertical hands and things like that, I think that's where people aren't having a lot of success. Maybe if the healthy person was doing that, it could be okay. But I'm typically seeing the people that are already hurt coming in and trying to do all those different things, and it's not working. It doesn't solve the initial problem that they've already created with the bad position they had on the old devices. So it's almost an I don't know yet. All right.
Yep. All right, we'll move on to standing then. So the same principles apply as we talked about, really focusing on that straight line. Not everyone has a stand-up desk at home, so good alternatives are, if you can, placing, I don't think everyone got to see earlier, but placing objects under your monitor or laptop to elevate it to that appropriate level. Also, working at a counter and doing that is a great kind of temporary solution, especially if you have the external keyboard so you can be typing with your elbows at your side there. Another thing to remember when you're standing is trying to keep your weight evenly distributed between both legs. It's pretty natural for a lot of people to drift off to one side, and that's okay to offload, but make sure you're doing that pretty evenly between the two, and as best you can. Thinking about keeping both feet on the ground. And equipment is pretty much the same as sitting. Like Ian said, you want your elbows in at your side and your wrists just slightly lower than your elbows, but still supported. Anything else to add for standing?
Yep. So in standing, you're going to want a nice cushion under your feet. The cushion under the feet that's recommended, you can buy the big ergo anti-fatigue mats if you want to do that. They also make those kitchen mats that are probably like a quarter of the price that would work really well too, and I've used those before. I've even used my exercise mats. I've double folded it in my garage and stood on that before, which is comfortable. But you want to get something to take a bit of the impact off of your feet. Make sure your shoes are good, or you're doing it barefoot, so that you've got good alignment of your feet, because you will get tired through the ankles, the knees, the hips, everything over time. I do like the weight shifting from side to side just to offload. And again, we're movers, right? So you keep coming into it, coming off of it. Just don't stand there the whole time. Shimmy and move. I think that's critical. Same deal with the external keyboard. You alluded to that, but definitely put that laptop up if you're on it, so it goes on a pedestal. And if you're going to be on a laptop standing, you have to have an external keyboard. It's not like a can I or not, because you're going to be doing a super weird hand position to type if you have any kind of typing you have to accomplish. So that'd be my recommendation there. But the monitor heights, everything else should be about the same at eye level. So
yep.
Good.
All right. And then people are always surprised when we recommend this, but lying down while working is actually really great. So this picture is of a fancy chair, but you definitely don't need that. It was just the best working while lying down picture we could find. But that reclined or semi-reclined position is relaxing for all those postural muscles that are working so hard and sitting and standing. And to get this in the bed or on the couch, you can kind of stack up pillows at an incline behind you to lean on, and make sure you're supporting your knees as well. So getting pillows under your knees too. But the same idea here. You want to keep everything in that neutral alignment that we talked about. And it actually works pretty naturally if you have a laptop. If that's resting in your lap, you're often able to keep your elbows in at your side and do all your typing from there. And your neck is in a good position to be looking straight ahead. Any more advice on laying down?
I think this is awesome. It's a great picture. If you can picture that guy just being spun back into a seated position, it's really not much different. You know, it's the same good alignment, just thrown back. The monitor height ends up at a good place when you're laying and supported like that. Your hands and wrists are usually in a pretty neutral position. The keyboard laptop tends to slide down, so it'll slide down towards my belly as I'm laying in that position. So it's good to put like a towel there or something to stop it. A folded up towel might stop it. They make little beanbag desks that you could put that on if you wanted to try that. And then the other issue I have with this position is in this particular chair, where do I put my mouse? Because now I'm stuck on a finger pad the whole time, which is super uncomfortable after a couple hours of doing that. So I usually take that same idea of the position, try to recreate that on the floor or on my couch with a good amount of padding, stuff under the feet, and then I'll put my mouse on the floor right next to me, and then I've got a nice flat wrist position still, and I can cook there for quite a while. So that's what I've got.
So I skipped over questions for standing, but are there any questions about standing or lying down? No? Okay, great. So like we said earlier, not one of these is perfect, but finding time in your day to change throughout. If you're getting tired in one, try to move to another. I know that's hard if you have a certain monitor set up, but hopefully we gave you some good options for how to make your laptop work in various positions as well. And it's important when we're taking those breaks to both stretch certain muscles and strengthen as well. So we provided a few quick hits here. Stretches are great. You can do them multiple times a day and help loosen up those areas that get tight while working on the computer. And they're easy to do. So you've probably done this one before, but just tilting your ear towards the opposite shoulder gets a really nice stretch through your upper trap. We always tell people to repeat each stretch about 3 times and hold for 30 to 60 seconds. Is looking to the side and then down towards your armpit. You get a stretch through your levator scapulae in the back there. This one just always feels nice after sitting. Forward bend, stretching out that low back. And then when we're working so often on the computer, we talked a little bit about the poor posture that comes, but a lot of it is your shoulders rounding forward. So taking time to stretch out your pecs as well. And you can do this in a doorway, you can do one at a time, and you can also play with the angle on the wall there. And you want to balance all that stretching with strengthening as well. In that rounded shoulder position, your pecs get tight and that forward head, but certain muscles get weak as well. So important ones to remember are just gentle squeezes of your shoulder blade. That kind of helps bring that reminder back to correct your posture. And if you're leaning your head forward as well, you want to work on keeping your working those neck flexors and tucking your chin, holding that for about 5 seconds, and then relax. And there's plenty more too, but if you have any questions on them, Ian can provide the clinic phone and email as well, so that you can follow up with us with any questions, or if you want a copy of the exercises as well.
Sorry, I'm trying to hide the screen share and I'm not doing a very good job of it.
Yeah, I think a copy of the exercises would be great. That'd be awesome.
Okay. Yeah, we can definitely send those across. That's pretty simple. For anybody else that needs them, just email us
Okay.
I'll set the email up at the end of this too. I'll go grab a card. But the exercises, yeah, those are all great basic exercises for people who are just struggling a little bit.
Yeah.
But in reality, I mean, everybody's pretty individualized. Like I get really tight through upper traps also in this stretch and the stretch, they're pretty helpful. But trigger pointing, getting in there with your Theracanes, your back buddies, and even some of those machine guns, your tap and stuff. But there are so many different techniques, and everybody's a little bit different. Some people are going to be tight through the scalenes. They might need a scalene stretch. So that's where we step in is we try to analyze what we can actually physically see when you pop into the clinic. So we'll sit you down and do a full range of motion scan and look at all the different pieces of mobility, check the strength on everything. What is your mid-scap strength like? Are you so jammed up and tight in the pecs that we're gonna have to do some big pec releases as well? What is it that's creating, or that is the problem now that you've created with your workstation? And I have to tell you, I mean, it's a huge piece of what we do in PT these days. It's not just a little bit. It used to always be low back pain was the number one thing we work on. That's a huge shift. Now it is this Technic stuff, and we're getting really good at solving it, but it's hard work for people because they've created this issue over a period of now, years and years and years. And it's usually the older men and women that are going past the 8-year mark where we really start to see a whole bunch of problems happening. And it goes back to that first slide that we looked at, which is how much time can you handle with your head in a forward and down position. And talking about 8-hour days for years, and that's a big ask to solve that in a couple sessions. So you have to understand that if you're going to come fix it, it's a commitment to doing all these things on a regular basis to make this thing happen. So
yeah,
go ahead and answer a couple more questions if you're going to. I'm going to grab our website and stuff real quick.
Oh, this is great. I don't know that I have, I'm trying to think if I have other questions. Like, do you have a general time frame for how often you should switch positions? Did you say that, or is it just kind of personal preference?
Switching positions is a personal preference, absolutely. We try and encourage people to just get up and walk around at least once an hour. You can go for a little walk and come back to the same position if it's not been bothering you. But if you're starting to feel that fatigue in your muscles with one position, then it's a good time to switch.
Okay. Yeah. Great.
Perfect. Yeah, so we'll send a copy of the slides as well, so you all can reference those.
Great.
Anything else? And Ian's got.
Well, I got some cards and whatnot, but the phone number, if you guys want to if somebody needs to call and schedule an appointment, it's 425-391-5504, and you'll get all the open appointments there. You can also hop online at the retptgroup.com, and you can schedule in different ways there as well. You can schedule online. I think there's a mobile app you can download and schedule that way if you need to as well. That's what we got. We got spots open right now if people need help there. So I wouldn't hesitate to at least come in and let us take a look and assess you. We also offer free stop-ins, so you can get an assessment quickly and, for free. So 15 minutes with one of us, and we'll just kind of do a quick analysis and then send you on your way. Give you, again, a few things that you can work on and determine if you want to go any farther with it. So
cool.
So we got.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this, and I'll definitely share with our members. I might actually share with my work team too, because we're all working from home right now. So give it to them as well, and just see, if this helps anybody out. So
I should have mentioned we can do online appointments as well. So
we're cool.
Also, so if people are uncomfortable coming into the clinic, we can scan most of the things right from home. I did a workstation evaluation specifically maybe 3 weeks ago, and it was successful. It's kind of funny, they're grabbing the external camera and showing me all the positions and what they've got, and I've got to clean all the junk off their desk and move this thing there and there. But it works. So we can get it done. So
good, awesome.
All right, guys.
No, thank you. You gave me a few things to go fix right away, so appreciate that.
It's usually how it works. All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys.